Welcome to I Didn't Sign Up for This, a podcast brought to you by Alzheimer's Arkansas that sheds light on the unexpected moments of caring for someone with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. While challenges in caregiving are expected, some moments can catch you completely off guard. Those I didn't sign up for this moments are as unique as each caregiver. This podcast offers comfort, connection, and practical insights to help you navigate the challenges of caregiving. A heartfelt thank you to the families who share their experiences.
I'm the host, Carolyn. I work at Alzheimer's Arkansas, and my role is education director slash family support specialist. So today, I'm going to get a little insight with a good friend and colleague, Brittany Goodman, for what I've learned in the past, some of the key takes of the past podcast, and what I hope to do or what I hope to reveal in the future. Hey, Brittany.
Hey, Carolyn. Yes, I'm very excited and honored to be able to do this very special episode with you. And I know that this is going to be, it's going to personalize it a little more because people are going to get to know you a little better as well. And hopefully at some point, well, I shouldn't say hopefully at some point they'll need your services and assistance, but they'll know the person that will be able to assist them if they ever need services from Alzheimer's Arkansas. So, first, you already covered that, you're the host, and speaking that we've concluded season 1 and now we have had our first episode of season 2. I want to have you tell me a few key takeaways from season 1. So if we have new listeners, they will be even more intrigued to go back and listen to those episodes.
I'm always referring people back to episodes when I meet new caregivers, people that need resources, and not just about the podcast. So one reason I love doing a podcast is every family situation, every family dynamic is so different, right? So each of those caregivers or former caregivers that were vulnerable enough to share their stories impacted me in different ways. But overall, it is every family is different. And although you think your family is unique and maybe the details are unique, a lot of us are going through the same things. So I think about Stephen and him with his father, who, after his mother passed away on a family trip, and he was long distance caregiving from Arkansas, I think, like to Illinois, and making these drives, finally getting his father, because of course we all know nobody wants to leave their home, getting him next door, and him having a disabled sister and the father attacking him, like how strong he has to be to protect like his family, his sister, and like the strain it took out on him. I mean, to see, sometimes people see their stories and they see the gloom in it, but I see the resilience and the strength. Um, I think about Clint, who I hear so many times with family members, like my brother want to do this and my sister want to do this, and I don't like how they're this. And he actually, and I'll use, if you can see quotes, but you can't, like he went and took his father from the situation he didn't like, right? How many family members want to do that? I'm not suggesting, but to hear stories like that, it really impacts me aside that with actions and with, we all have more power in caregiving than what we know. So that's what I take away from the past. Like every one of those caregivers has so much strength and resilience that they a lot of times don't see.
Yeah, actually, that was the word that I was thinking when you were talking is strength, and they feel a lot of times, they do feel worn down and maybe not as full of worth as outsiders looking in would see them. And so I can totally understand that. And it's crazy, because that episode I didn't really think about it, but that totally relates to like my kind of experience when my grandfather got sick and he had dementia. My mom stepped in and helped him, and my aunt didn't even want people to know that he was sick. So that was crazy. And these stories of caregivers, like you can't ever like no one of them is the same. Like it's not. And there were so many different experiences from season 1, and I can't wait to hear what we find in season 2. One thing from the first episode of season 2 is we got to revisit an interview, a guest on your last podcast, actually in season 1, and we got to see like how her life has transformed since the caregiving journey for her mother has ended. And I'm curious also, like, once individuals lose that loved one or whomever it is that they're caregiving for, what does that relationship look like moving forward? With their continued involvement with Alzheimer's Arkansas, or did they still reach out to you, and y'all become friends after the fact? Like how does that work? What does that look like? There's probably not one thing either, but
So, so I'm gonna say in the I didn't sign up for this thing. Uh, when you step into a career, a job, and you this position, and you are you have all these tasks, right? So my task is to support things, right?
sure.
And uh, dementia is not the standalone, or caregiving is not the standalone issue in their life always. Like, how can I can't just like put this in this. Okay, I'm just gonna talk about this part and not get to know the whole person or the whole thing, the situation. So relationship is built. So in going back to I did sign up for this part, I did not know the impact that it has on me as an individual, right? So talking with people, having growing a relationship, because that's what happens. You relationship and full circle. I start off as a resource, and as the relationship is built, then my it's there. I have a relationship. It's not ending based on like the journey of their loved one ending, because it's a relationship, and it's not built on re- pure relationship is not built on like a circumstance, right? All of the circumstances there, and the emotional take it takes on me, uh me having to see her mother decline. Sometimes I see some of the declines that maybe she didn't see as much, because maybe I'm over there only once a month and she's there daily. And I'm like, I noticed this decline based on, and it could be something small. I remember talking to her about when we used to podcast together monthly, and uh her mother used was able to stay in the room. I go say hi to her, talk, and she would stay in her room and entertain herself, watch TV. However, and months later, the inability for her to stay, like she's always looking for things, but in a certain amount of time frame, like every 15 minutes, she thought she was alone. So I just saying little small, could be seen as small declines, and it impacted me because I know, what's coming in. She's not my mother. She's someone I've grown to care about, but I see the declines, right? It is affecting me because I know what's to come. And I have plenty of stories of the impact that I'm like, when I signed up for this job, I really didn't sign up for, and I know it's true, and I'll say like the ending of the journey, right? Of course, I'm helping through the resource, but when I get a text and someone loved ones passed away, like it's affecting me, right? So I'm also trying to figure out how that looks emotionally for me, relationship wise. And we don't. And I'm being the education director. I'm trying to find programming, may it be a grief support group, uh, helping them stay on support groups because they've been full circle, so they can help other people in the support group. So no, to your question, like, is it an end of the journey? For Alzheimer's Arkansas, with them with Alzheimer's Arkansas, I'm gonna say no, and no for me, because if I build a relationship with you, it is truly a relationship, and I know they might go outside of some professional boundaries. However, people are people, and you just don't cut off relationships with people. It's
Sure.
been down the road with.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess you did kind of answer the question that I was gonna. I mean, I guess it kind of is one and the same, right? But how does supporting caregivers affect you? So, how about like I know this is kind of unexpected, but how about today, for example? Like, what has your day consisted of so far today? And like you said, I think you were telling me a while ago, like you received a call from somebody this morning and,
Oh,
like
so
the
I'm gonna
things that
say
you
it.
don't believe.
Yeah, so it's 7. So I have a day, and I have a day 7 o'clock. I get up. I don't look at my phone first, but do some prayer meditation, some little things. Then I start to look at my phone for my calendar, how it's gonna look, because you always have a plan, right?
Sure.
Then I have a text from a family that I have been supporting since I started here in Parkinson's Creek, and the spouse said, my husband died. Could you please let the support group know? So it's like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, okay, when am I? Because I don't want them to get this text first thing in the morning. So I'm like, okay, I'll put that on my agenda. I'm going in the office. So uh, I'm like, okay. So I had a Zoom support group with people across the state, care for their loved ones.
Okay.
And we talked about vulnerability and the power in that and be the caregiver. And as I'm sitting in the office, there's a Zoom support group. I had a caregiver too out in the hallway that just popped up and wanted to see you because they're having some issues. So in between those, and I know I had podcast you that I am going to help these family members take care of some important issues. And usually when they come see me, it is important. So I had that. I had 3 people that I talked to in between those that I am trying to help get some resources. And I did send the text for that their support group member passed away. So it is 1:35 at that is how my day looks so far. And I probably have emails and phone calls to support family caregivers in a number of ways. And that doesn't even talk about the stuff I do, like the support groups and the education. So uh, my day uh, is surrounded, but I love it. Without the caregivers, I would not be inspired to do what I can do. We have a lot of people that I hope to come up in my future, like in our season to come. Some caregivers that are different in age, different in incomes, things we don't look for in family caregivers, but they're always inspiring. And that's how I get my job done, Brittany, is because of the people I do the work for. They inspire me more than they know.
Yeah, well, see, and like my point of asking that question is because just like caregivers, they they like everybody likes to plan out their day. I think now a few people might be, an exception to the rule, but you have a time schedule and like this is what your intent is to accomplish for the day. But if you're caring for someone, especially with Alzheimer's or dementia, like you can't ever really predict what's going to happen because as these stories have shown so far in the podcast, like all these different things that nobody expects are going to happen because each person is different, right? And so, like with you, being in the role that you're in with Alzheimer's Arkansas, like you are accessible, you're accessible to people outside of 8 or 9 to 5 in the afternoon, and you have to be because, those individuals need somebody. and they might not be able to call on a family member, because they may be the only family member that that person has, you know. But you having that experience, they can rely on Alzheimer's Arkansas and know that if they're in a, like you said, a vulnerable situation, or it is just a moment where they need, you know, maybe they need some respite or something, like, you have those resources. You are readily available to speak with them, and the compassion that you have for the people you work with, like, I've seen it. And so I'm really excited to see the next season, season 2, how this develops, and to hear more of those stories, but also to hear more of those resources, you know, because like Dr. Bell's interview, we that people think of, I think people have that preconceived notion about hospice as like, oh, well, that's, you know, that's the end. But hospice can do so much more for people, and that's a resource they don't necessarily know about. And so I know you have a lot more resources and people that we're going to get to hear from. So maybe you have a couple of exciting like announcements for interviews, like guests that you plan to have coming up, like reasons that people should stay tuned and follow the podcast, and just know that they have more information, resources, and comfort that's accessible in the near future.
Yeah, so I have a young lady. She's 30. She's a caregiver. I think she says she's been a caregiver since she's 21 to her mother. Now, not with dementia, but with MS. I look forward to talking to people. It was just like diverse stories, because my goal is to let individual caregivers know, although they did not sign up for this, they aren't alone.
Hmm.
It's term, and you don't have to feel alone. The other thing is, if you're listening to me, and you would like to share, your caregiver story. If somebody out there under our voice, is listening, and they would like to, share their caregiver story, to contact, Alzheimer's Arkansas, contact me, and, we can talk about them sharing their story, because it really inspires others.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And just to, you know, to reiterate, like the people that Alzheimer's Arkansas is there to help those different caregivers. Like you said, it's not just somebody that's being cared for that has Alzheimer's or dementia. Like, you're talking to caregivers with people are caregiving for Alzheimer's, dementia, or other chronic illnesses. So I know that this can speak to a level of caregivers, and I just I'm trying to think, is there, what else do you want to share with us, Carolyn, that, you know, you want to kind of give insight to, or just what info to impart?
So if you're listening to this, and you must be listening, it's but you listening to this, uh, and maybe you're not a caregiver, but maybe you know a caregiver, and sometimes peer. So I found that peer support is so important. So I don't know if you can see a podcast as peer support. However, if you share this with someone in needs, or if you think it resonates to someone, to say, I know you're a caregiver, I know today you don't think you have the strength, or I don't think you may think you're doing a good job. There is a story that if I haven't in the past, I'm coming up, maybe in the future, that somebody can resonate with. And that will inspire them to do it one more day. Because that's all we really have, right? Like, sometimes we don't think we can do it today, but this podcast and through other people's story may help someone who think they don't have what it takes, or the support that they need, can continue in their role as being a caregiver.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, as you were answering that question, I have one more question for you that I think would be really cool to know. So, well, it's a two-part. How long have you been with Alzheimer's Arkansas? And were you in a different role previously?
Yes. So I've been with Alzheimer's Arkansas for going on 8 years, a little short of 8 years now. And before that, I worked in a role where I did mental health and emotional health for adults 60 and older, uh, helping them with their emotional and mental health needs, right? So, and I've been in a lot of roles, but I'm gonna say hindsight being 2020 and how you can like look back on your life. I remember my best friends and relationships being, as I was growing up, being the older women in my neighborhood, right? So there was Miss Creasman, and she was, you know, she was a black Jew and a lady that had been in the Air Force in her career. So, like, to me, a woman that had actually, like, and she was older, like, she was like my grandmother age. So, she had been retired from the Air Force. She was a black and a Jew. Like she was just like so diverse and like she had so many great stories for that she would tell me, right? Her life impacted me. And then I had on the other part was Miss Gussie, and she was in her 80s, and she was to me, and I don't want to offend anybody, but like on 8, 9, 10, 12, she was old. She was like the oldest person I knew, and most people were just like, she's so old. But she was also the lady when she came home, me and my siblings, we would help her get home because she had a fear and she wanted us to go look in her house and make sure no one had broken in. And we would go help her, but she taught me how to cook stuff, and she had her own story. And then I had another lady, Miss Chandler, and she was a divorced mother from California. So it was like all of these seasoned women who poured into me as a child, who has led to me to say, hey, can we take care of our seasoned older people? So I must like I was made for this role. It took me some different avenues to get here, but that's how I ended up here at Alzheimer's.
Okay. Did you get a degree in social work or psychology or?
I had a bachelor's in social work and I have a master's in education with a focus on adult learning, how adults learn.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, Carolyn. Well, I'm trying to think if I have anything else. Do you have anything else that you want to share before we wrap up episode 2 of season 2?
No, so I just it's an honor to be on this platform and to work with amazing people like you, Brittany, to make this podcast happen and to the amazing people that are willing to listen to these vulnerable stories so they can help others and even help themselves. So thank you to the audience, thank you to people like you that support me. Thank you to Elder Independence and Alzheimer's Arkansas for giving me this platform.
Absolutely. And y'all, I know that you've enjoyed this interview with Carolyn. So don't forget to go in and like this episode and give some comments. And like she said, if you guys know anybody that would be interested in sharing a story, maybe you want resources for the different workshops and stuff, Carolyn, how do they best get in touch with you?
So the best way is you can email me at Carolyn, Carolyn, at ALZ, like zebra, ALZARK.org, or on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, all of the wonderful social medias.
Okay. Yeah. And y'all check out ALZARK.org for all the caregiver workshops. And Miss Carolyn, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, so thank you again, and we'll hear you later on the next podcast.
I Didn't Sign Up for This is brought to you by Alzheimer's Arkansas, an independent nonprofit organization that supports families in Arkansas caring for their loved ones with Alzheimer's, other forms of dementia, and chronic illnesses. For resources, support, and community, visit alzark.org and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Didn't Sign Up for This.